Alabama did not get the news that it was hoping for from McKinley Jackson. Yesterday, most of the Alabama recruiting sites, including BamaInsider, were projecting Jackson to Alabama. What happened?
Well, Jimbo Fisher won out. That's what happened. It's one of those things where, we make these predictions, and I know a lot of times, especially if all Alabama sites, make a prediction, it seems like it's definitely going to happen. And man, we got burned a little bit with McKinley Jackson going A&M, and I tried to explain it to our subscribers and a little bit on Twitter and on our YouTube channel that McKinley Jackson was a toss-up. I mean, it certainly was. I mean, it was an extremely tight race between Alabama and Texas A&M. LSU was in there, but it really had become an Alabama-Texas A&M battle over the course of the last few days. And, kind of felt like it was going to be Alabama just based on, his recruitment throughout the last couple of years, the addition of Freddie Roach to Alabama staff. And we certainly saw that as a positive for Alabama. And Texas A&M got him on that last weekend, right before signing day, and really won him over. And that's it's probably a tough pill to swallow for Alabama, tough pill to swallow for Alabama fans today who were kind of expecting McKinley to pick Alabama, or at least hoping McKinley would pick Alabama. But he ends up going to Texas A&M, and Alabama strikes out on the remaining targets today. But overall, great class.
It is. I guess what has a lot of Alabama fans a little bit up in arms is a piece by Chad Simmons there at Rivals.com that McKinley Jackson had made up his mind a year ago where he was going. And, everybody says, including you, that it was a last, down-the-wire decision. But according to what he said, that wasn't the case. He said, I've known where I was going for a year. I've known the school for over a year. And he said that he had told the school that he was signing with, which was A&M, for a couple of months. That's where he was going. So I think a lot of Alabama fans are like, well, he just milked this thing out for no reason. So what do you make of that? It's kind of a contradiction in that it went down the wire. It's 50-50 to I know for a year where I was going.
Yeah, obviously I read the story as well, and talked to Chad. I talked to Chad yesterday about about the interview and what all McKinley had to say. Chad Simmons is a great reporter for Rivals.com. He's covered the Southeast, covered the state of Mississippi extremely well. And I talked to him about it yesterday, and he said McKinley had not told him what he was going to do. Now, I think he had informed Alabama and Texas A&M. Not necessarily, hey, I'm committed to you, but I think both of them kind of felt going into today that they had a good chance to sign him. We've seen so many times throughout the last, several years, and really the last few cycles that, kids saying, hey, this is where I'm going. I've already got a leader, and then on signing day, they end up going somewhere else. So, you just never know what's going to happen with some of these kids. And, I talking to LSU sources, talking to A&M sources, talking to Alabama sources, you just kind of had the idea that nobody was certain what he was going to do today. And that included Texas A&M. Just from talking to my sources over there, they weren't positive what was going to happen. And maybe they were told, hey, I'm coming there a month or two ago, but nobody's really certain until signing day.
Enos Rakestraw, I said this several times. I had never heard of the kid a couple months ago, but after I watched his video, you got to put on some weight. I tell you, the kid's a player. I mean, if you can stay with receivers in this day and age, you're valuable. Now, Bone, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm going to let you answer this, but it appears to me that this was a young man. Now, he had strong connections with the Missouri coaching staff, but I get the feeling, based on what I've read, that Alabama could have gotten him had they put the full court press on. It appears because of the numbers. They kind of kept him as an option, but wanted to see what happened with Jackson to see where they were numbers-wise, and he just went ahead and chose Missouri, which I don't blame him. Am I on to something there, or did he have a firm offer this morning? Could he have committed to Alabama at 8 a.m.?
100% could have committed to Alabama this morning. Alabama went into today having two spots available, and guess what? They didn't get they didn't get either one of those spots filled. And it was really kind of between. I explained this yesterday on BamaInsider.com that there were 2 spots available for 3 players. Cedric Van Pran, who signed with Georgia just a few minutes ago, stuck with his commitment to Georgia. McKinley Jackson and ENOS Decision. And I believe Alabama was informed by Cedric Van Pran on Tuesday evening that he was sticking with his commitment to Georgia, and they were really pressing hard to get ENOS Decision and McKinley Jackson on board today, fill those 2 spots. And I think they kind of went into this morning thinking that at least ENOS Decision was going to jump on board, and then probably I heard maybe about 30 minutes before his announcement that and now I did not hear until afterwards, but I did hear that Alabama kind of found out about 30 minutes before the announcement that he was going to go to Missouri. And I think the biggest thing with ENOS Decision choosing Missouri over Alabama, and everybody probably says, well, nobody chooses Missouri over Alabama unless you just did not have a committable offer. Well, he had a committable offer, but I think the biggest thing with him was, I think, playing time. I think that played a big factor for him. I think the fact that he had a relationship with the coaching staff over Missouri for longer than he did at Alabama. They had really pressed hard. I mean, he was really a top priority for them, and I think he felt like he could go into Missouri and contribute right away, whereas Alabama, might need a year to redshirt, put on some weight. I think that was the biggest thing with Alabama in terms of going full throttle on him with his weight, because he is only about 165 pounds. Alabama wanted him to get up a little bit, but they were still going to take a chance on him. And, they liked him a lot. And I think that the biggest thing with him was just, I think, playing time. And you look at Alabama's roster, the talent that they've got, the amount of 5-stars and 4-star recruits that they've signed, and guys who are kind of waiting in the wings right now, it's into play. I think he kind of felt like there was a better opportunity at Missouri, and he had to give a lot of credit to that Missouri staff, because it feels like, I hate to say schools like Missouri, but schools like Missouri don't often win recruiting battles against Alabama.
Yeah, so Bama goes 0 for 3. I see why they're wrapping up most of their recruiting in December, because so far, since they've gone to 2 signing periods, the second signing period has not been kind to Alabama. It just hasn't. No. Good news is you get most of it done in December. It doesn't make that big a difference.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and they were lucky with in the December signing period getting the majority of their guys. I mean, you look at, they signed 10 Rivals 100 players in December. 4 of those guys 5-stars. You get the number 1 quarterback in the country on board. Along with everybody else, all those other guys. I mean, certainly a special, class, and people just don't think about it. Today's the day where you're only thinking about the guys that you're going after and the guys that are signing today. Not a lot of people aren't thinking about the guys who signed in December today, but the guys who signed in December are really what made Alabama's recruiting class.
Indeed, absolutely. All right, let's talk about what Alabama does have today. They signed the McEachern High School duo from over in Georgia, Javon Baker and Jamil Burrows. And I think Burrows is a talented guy. I mean, I think there's been concerns about, his academic situation. He put on some weight, but he could be a top-notch defensive tackle in the SEC. And Javon Baker seems to catch everything he's thrown his way. Even though they had been committed, they had not signed. So to get those 2 guys wrapped up is good work by the Tide.
Yeah, I don't think there was really anything to worry about with Burrows. Javon Baker, as we've talked about, took a few official visits. Visited Arkansas a couple weekends ago. He was supposed to visit Georgia Tech this past weekend, but ended up not going over there. Wasn't really too concerned as long as Alabama had planned on signing them. I thought both of them would stick with Alabama. And yes, there are still some academic hurdles to overcome, but I think Alabama believes that both of them can qualify, and that's why they're taking a chance on them and signing.
Also, it'll be official here, I guess, in a couple of minutes here, in about 18 minutes, Damion George will go ahead and make it official. Some people feel like he's already signed with Alabama, but that'll be announced at 11 a.m., right?
Yes, Damion George, big offensive tackle out of Houston, will be signing officially at 11 a.m. today, and we kind of have hinted at him possibly going ahead and signing back in December. And Nick Saban had hinted at somebody who had already signed back then. So, we definitely expect that to be him, and just kind of let him do it how he wants to do it. And, some people were trying to assume that he was potentially being asked for gray shirt or blue shirt, but none of that was true. He was, he's been fully committed and nothing to worry about there. So he'll officially sign with Alabama at 11 a.m. this morning.
All right, Bone, let me ask you this. Since you don't, I'm talking about Alabama when I say you, the Crimson Tide doesn't get Rakestraw, they don't get Jackson, they don't get Van Prawn. Jason Jones is set to announce it too. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt Jason Jones wanted to come to Alabama. I mean, that's where he grew up wanting to play. Alabama decided that, they would offer him, but it would be with some strings, either a gray shirt or a blue shirt. Other schools came in, namely Baylor and Oregon, and said, hey, man, we want you now. Any chance that Alabama will with a spot open, will make a final last-second push to go ahead and put Jason Jones in this class, or is that ship sailed?
I think it's probably sailed. He's he's a guy that committed to Alabama right before his junior season, and I think Alabama talked to him back in the fall, about potentially blue shirting him, meaning they were no longer going to recruit him. They weren't going to take him as a part of the 2020 class. Didn't bring him in for an official visit. Nick Saban did not do an in-home visit. Definitely got a lot of attention from some other schools: Oregon, Baylor, Georgia Tech. I don't see him going to Georgia Tech or Baylor. I think Oregon's in the best shape with him, I do not think Alabama will do anything. I mean, could that change possibly, since they know that since they do know the decisions on Van Prawn and McKinley and ENOS Rakestraw. But as of right now, kind of assuming he'll sign with Oregon today.
Final question, Bone. Where do you think Alabama will wind up in the final Rivals rankings when they come out?
Well, I think they're going to finish number 3. So obviously, top 3 recruiting class, still awesome for Alabama. Obviously everybody was kind of hoping for to finish number 1, and if they would have gotten McKinley Jackson today, they would have finished number 1 based on the points. As long as Georgia and Clemson didn't add anyone else, which in terms of 4- or 5-star type guys, which I don't believe they were, they would have finished number 1. So it was really close. I mean, that's how close it was for that number 1 overall ranking, and kind of what separates number 1 from number 3 was basically one recruit. So, still overall great recruiting class. I think Alabama is extremely happy. They already have 13 players, 13 freshmen on campus who signed early and enrolled early. So I think they're really excited about that.